Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, today I want to talk about my OTB ruler. And this is an example of my OTB ruler. Now, why is this different? We'll get into that before this is over. But we have to do a little preliminary fact-based stuff here first. Give you an idea of why I've even decided to do my own OTB ruler. It all starts off with the fact that I really have my eyes are getting worse and worse as I get older. And if it isn't happening to you yet, it will. It will. Anyway, here's a good example. I have this little combination square that I use all the time, 6-inch. And on it, it has 4 scales. On this side, it has a metric scale, which we don't even care about that one. Down here, this is a 32nd of an inch scale. Every single 32nd of an inch, there's a little hash mark. And the length of the hash mark varies on what increment it is. A 32nd, a 16th, an 8th, blah, blah, blah. You know how rulers work. But I will tell you right now, that looks like one gray line coming across there to me. At my age, I used to be able to see those, but not anymore. And trying to mark and get my mark right down onto that little 32nd of an inch line as to which one I got to line up to when I make that mark, it gets really tough. I tend to gravitate to my 16th inch scale. There's also this 1/8 inch scale, which is even further apart on your marks, makes it even easier to read. I actually, as I'm getting older, I find myself gravitating from the 16th inch scale to the 1/8 inch scale for a lot of things that I do. It's just so much easier to read. And it got me to thinking, why don't I have a ruler that I can really read comfortably? My eyes really don't do so great. I really hate steel rulers because of the shiny effect. I could go into all the different things, but I've decided I deserve my own ruler. It's my shop. Why can't I have my own ruler? So, sorry, I digress here. I decided to make my own, something that I can read easily, and I can actually take it and drill down to a 16th of an inch measurement accurately to either mark or to measure, whichever one I'm doing with it. So, what I did, let's go over the story of what happened here. And the way it started was, I'm thinking about making my own ruler, and I realized that I actually have a brother down in the St. Louis area that has a computer-operated laser marker, laser engraver, whatever you want to call it. It's a nice little machine. He paid a pretty penny for it. He does not use it all that much. So I decided to call him up one day, and I says, make me some templates. And I had him use it. He did it on 1/8 inch pieces of plywood, a good quality plywood. And I had him make this pattern for me. And you will see it's 1/8 inch increments. 1 inch has the longest line, and just like any standard ruler, depending on the increment as to how long the line is. So you can see the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch, and you can see which way, what the dimension is without having to have the numbers there. Standard way to do any kind of ruler. So I had him make up 4 of these for me and send them to me so I could play with them for a little bit, because I'm thinking about doing this. So could I have done this myself? Sure, I could have. We'll go over that, how you make these yourself accurately, before this video is over, so stay tuned. But I took these and I cut it in half, and I ended up with 2 rulers that were generic rulers. No numbers on them or anything like that. And I got to thinking that, yeah, this actually, I can use this a lot in my jigs. If I'm making a movable jig that needs measurement done on it, instead of using an old ruler and epoxying it down, I can use this stuff. And this stuff I can start and stop, put my own numbers on it. This will work great for doing that sort of thing. But that's only one thing I could do with this. I got to thinking about it, that the only thing about this that I really had drawbacks about is that I still can only drill down to an 1/8 of an inch accuracy, because that's what this is based on, is that every 1/8 of an inch. So I decided that 1/16 of an inch is really where I wanted to get to. So I called my brother back up and I said, make me 4 more, but we added a slight feature to it. And what I had him do is instead of, whoops, instead of being totally blank here in the center like we did, I had him put another hash mark in here across there, and they're also 1/8 of an inch apart as you go up through here. But instead of lining up to these lines, I had him offset it by 1/16 of an inch. So when I go from here to here, these two lines line up theoretically on here, let's say the 22-inch mark, straight across, but it goes in between these two lines. These are actually the 1/16 of an inch increment. So when I split this apart, I ended up with two rulers like this. And I can measure to the 1/8 of an inch on this side of the ruler. If I need the 1/16 of an inch either above or below that, I just move across and I use these two. So like if this is the inch increment here, right here, let's say the 17th inch, and you go across right there, that is 16 and 15/16. That one is accurately set to 17 and, well, I'm sorry, that is 16 and 15/16. I see, I'm looking at this backwards, like looking in a mirror. So that one is 15/16. And this one down here is 17 inches and 1/16 of an inch. So if I got to go to a 1/16 of an inch, I dip over to this side of my ruler to get that 1/16 of an inch. And I can just look over, like at the 1/2 inch, I can look over and I can see the 7 and the 9/16 from there easily. Because these all will be in line from starting at 1 all the way up to 15 at the incrementing 2, 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., through 15. That's how many 1/16 of an inch each of these are. The even 1/16 of an inch don't need to be there because that's on this side anyway. The 1/8 is 2/16, and so on. So this separates my lines out, even though these are 1/16 of an inch increments. If I'm using an 1/16 of an inch increment, it'll still either fall onto one of these lines or onto this line over here. So I can always get down to a 1/16 of an inch measurement accuracy without any problem with this ruler. But yet I have everything spaced out to an 1/8 of an inch increment. Makes it much easier for me to read it. This thing works great, be honest with you. So if I'm going to the 1/16, I just make sure I'm on this side to do my final marking or my final measuring to see where I'm at. And it's really easy to use, but I don't have to get my glasses out to take an accurate measurement down to a 1/16 of an inch using this. It's a great design. Now I did also, when he redid these, and before we cut them apart, I also told him go ahead and put numbers on them. I figured out what the heck, let's go ahead and get the numbers on them for now. So, and when he did that, that inherently gave me, I had him do that to 2 of them, and they gave me 1 left to right and 1 right to left, wherever that is. Here we go. On the rules, one goes left to right and the other one goes right to left. So actually, if you take these back to back and glue them together, now when you go to use it, you can go left to right on your numbers or flip it over and go right to left. Real nice and easy, and it makes for a nice, I guess, a ruler that swings both ways. I don't know what else you would call it, but it gives you a nice little ruler to be able to do that with. I also had him take half of these, and instead of putting number 1 through 23 on it for the inches, I had him actually go to the center. And so we made what is called a center rule. And I have 4 of these too. And so what I did with this, and this is my favorite ruler, I'm going to probably have this one in the shop for a while and use it. I glued 2 pieces together, and one of them is a ruler, 0 through 24, and the other one is the center ruler. So I can use the center ruler, or I can flip it over and have a regular ruler, 1 through a 24-inch ruler that I can use, up to a 1/16 of an inch for measuring and stuff, and marking. The other thing I did is, as you know, when you do these things, these numbers can jumble together on this side, these 1/16 of an inch. I can see where the 1 inch is, and then go down here to the other 1 inch. If I could kind of get it focused in, mark this every inch, that would help me identify what range I'm working in so I can figure out where 1/16 or 7/16 is exactly just by a quick look. So in order to make that easier, I did put 2 color codes on this. One color code is white, and it is right at the 1 inch. So this white bar is in between 2 hash marks. The one above it is above the inch increment. In this case, this is 7 inches, and that's 6 inches. So this right here, the one above right there, that one is a 15/16. So that would be 6 and 15/16. Then one down here below the white bar is 7 and a 16th inch marker. That's where that would be. So that would be 1, 3/16, 5/16, 7/16. And so 7 to 9, that's where the half-inch increment is. So in the half-inch increment, I put a red bar in between. So the one above is the 7/16, and the one below is the 9/16. So this helps me identify that if I'm going to 7 and a fraction, I know my fraction is now going to be between these two here. So if I know it's a 1/16 of an inch fraction, I can easily drill down to it. By looking at this scale, and I know I'm between those 2 points, makes it real easy to hone in on exactly what line I'm trying to line up to pretty quickly. So the little markers have really helped you to identify these without having to put individual numbers out there, which again would be very hard to read anyway. I can see my lines, and I know that if I'm at the red one, I'm at 7. I can just go back from 7 to 5 or to 3. And to get to anyone's in between without any problem. I know where it's at pretty easily just by eyeballing it. No math really. And that makes it real easy to identify these now. So that's why I did add the color code at the 1 inch and at the half-inch increments all the way up and down the ruler to help me identify where what 1/16 of an inch value that is. That makes this ruler easy and quick to read. I like the way it turned out. And even though my brother is although my brother did do the whole thing really, and all I did was glue it together and did a few markings. You can actually make this yourself. I could probably just give everybody my brother's email, and then that's one way to get even with him. You guys can all go after him. Nah, I may need him to do something else. I better not do that. So you can do this yourself, though. You don't have to have somebody that has an engraver or a CNC machine to make these for you. You can make these templates pretty easily just by cutting out your blank piece. And then what you want to do is, believe it or not, all you're going to need is a good marking knife and your ink or jig. And you'll be able to accurately mark all these lines out without any problem. And what I would do is I'd make a plate that this would sit on so that I have room to put a blank in from the side here up to it. And that would give me my edge there. And then this would sit here like this overhang so that when I put this piece under there and I extend this out to the 0, like so, then I can bring this to right flush, and that's my 0 marking. And then all I have to do now is just clamp this down into place on my jig. And my jig is held like so. Now, as I increment this a little at a time, 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch at a time, I can then take my marking knife, excuse me, or anything, and I now have this setting underneath here. This is my piece that I'm going to mark. I have my jig right here. I set this to 1/8 of an inch. I know that right now from this edge in, that is 1/8 of an inch exactly, as long as I stay against my fence. So then all I have to do is keep in mind the length of these here, and I have from this edge here, I mark out lines on here so I know these lengths. So if I know I'm making a 1 inch line, a 1/8 inch. That's the shortest one. That means I would be like to right here and mark my line and do a cut. If it's a 1/4 inch, then I would just come out to here and push and do my cut. And then I can make a slice. And then once I made the one slice, I can loosen up, move it 1/8 of an inch, come back. I can see my mark here. I come in here and I make my next mark based on the length of what I'm trying to do. 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch mark, or whatever it is, to line everything up. So you got to pay attention closely to what you're doing. Don't go off into la la land while you're doing this, or you'll mess up. But once you get them all knife marked, then you can put a light coat of stain on there, and then sand it back down, and those knife lines should fill up with the stain, so that you get a nice little hairline for all the different marks. I haven't done it yet, but I feel pretty comfortable that that would work. And once I do that, if you're interested, you want to see me do that with the jig, I'll get the thing set up to where I want it, and I'll do a test run, and then I'll show you how it all come together. Do a video on just this if I get enough people interested in seeing what it's like. But this should give you an idea how to do it yourself. So be an OTB thinker. You can do this. You don't need me to hold your hand. But set it up and do this, and you can very easily make your own templates when you're done. So you make your marks on the one side. Also, if you have it in far enough, you can do it so that you can mark the 32nd or the 16th inch on the other side as you go down through there, depending upon what increment you're making, whether it's a 16 inch or a 32 inch, a 32nd increment, whatever it is. So that's how I would make it using this jig. I really like these. I think I showed you how you can make your own if you want. If you have somebody a friend that can do it on a laser engraver, yes, I would advise you to let him do it and have him put some numbers on there. But don't forget those center rules. They're pretty handy to have around the shop too. So anyway, if you have any ideas of what tool you can put together and make your own ruler out of these things, you know, this is a pretty cool idea to be able to make your own ruler. I actually was thinking of taking 3 of these and putting them together into a pyramid shape, so that you then turn it and flip it for the different scales that you want. Something like that. And I thought, well, yeah, that wouldn't make a bad one either, but I don't know. I think if I was going to do that, I probably would just burn it into the piece, make the piece and set it up on the laser and put it in there afterwards. It'd be much easier than trying to put something together. Anyway, there's lots of things you can do with it. My mind's going crazy with it these days, as you can tell. So tell me what kind of combination you think would work. There is one more thing. I almost forgot. I got to show you this, though. The other thing you can do with it is if you take, this is the generic one that I got, the first batch, no numbers. If you put packing tape on that, I put it on the back of a ruler. So I took my center ruler here. So if I want to do center ruling, use a center ruler for something, or a 12-inch ruler, it's all with my hands. But also, if I flip it over where I have the generic, you can actually take this and very quickly take, I use the Scripto, and you can go in here and mark it as a story stick, like what your leg length is will be right here, so you know to measure out. You don't have to do any measuring, and you can build your own. The top right here, and then the back right here. So then you have your story stick, and then when you're done with it, all you have to do is just take some WD-40 and spray it, and you should be able to just wipe them right off, and you're back to have a nice clean story stick again to use again to make markings on it. So just a blank on the other side actually can be kind of a handy thing to have too. So just a thought. So I might coat this side with the same type of taping on it and see if I do that, how I can use this maybe as a story stick, be able to put notes right on it. So anyway, I wanted to show you the trick here about this. I think that's about it. This is really getting to be quite distracting. I got to get back to doing my logging here. I kind of had to stop. It's so hot out. So anyway, one more thing. There's a gentleman out there that my panel saw that I built, if you're familiar with it, how I have it mounted to my overhead door, and I can set it up and use it when the door is down in just a couple of minutes and cut full sheets of plywood on there. A guy took that idea and he made his own. He's from Thailand. His video is in his native language, but if you watch it, you'll get everything out of there that you need to. But you can see the similarities of how he took my idea and applied it to him, to the side of his truck, so that he can actually set this up when he's on site somewhere. He always works in tight quarters and small driveways and stuff, and this is great for him. So I thought it was very interesting. If you know anything about my panel saw and you want to check out his thing, I'll leave a link in the description for that, and you can take a look at that video. I think it's worth time. It's very cool. So anyway, my hat's off to him. I thought he took my idea and ran with it and really made it something that he could use and made it work. So I enjoy it when I see that, and so I was kind of proud to see it. Anyway, check out his video. Sorry I kept it this long, but I thought this would be a lot of fun. It's a lot different than some of the other things I've done. It's been a while since I did something new. So check it out. If you like these, if you think it's a good idea or have a twist on it, let me know. Otherwise, I do want to thank you for stopping by. If you like this video, you learned something here, hit that like button. Most importantly, come back, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys soon.